Hey guys, it's Suzanne. Today I'm going to do a what I eat in a day, and I'm going to share with you specifically the meals that I was eating that helped me lose 10 pounds in 1 month. Recently I did a video on that where I talked about how I was able to lose 10 pounds in 1 month. But today I'm going to go more into detail about specifically what meals I typically eat in a day. So one of the things with losing weight that I find makes it easier for me is I try to stay eating pretty consistently day in and day out. What that means is I try to eat the same meals every single day, especially for breakfast, lunch, and snacks. I may have a little variety at dinner just so I feel like I'm not just eating the same things every single day. But for sure, those first three main meals, I definitely will keep the same. Oh, and I forgot to mention that these recipes are keto friendly. And when I say keto, I mean loosely keto. I don't follow a 20 grams or less type of diet a day, but the foods that I'm eating are definitely low sugar. They're more low starchy carbohydrate. And so the first meal of the day that I have is my breakfast. It is a sliced tomato, and then I will melt some of my favorite cheese on top of it. I may put a little mayonnaise on it just to counteract the kind of vegetable-y taste of the tomato. And then I will have a hard boiled egg with a little bit of salt on it. And the interesting thing that I found, and I mentioned this in my other video, is that starting with this particular meal in the day really helps me curb my hunger for quite a few hours. In fact, I was kind of off that plan for a little bit, and then I started it back up yesterday and the day before yesterday, and I really noticed how I did go longer without feeling hungry when I ate that specific meal first in the day. So then I may not get hungry until around 11 or 12. I'll usually have that meal around 7 or 8. That's when I get really hungry. And then at lunch, now what I'm doing is I have a very delicious egg omelet. I will have one egg. I will add some egg whites in just to add a little bit of extra protein. I cook up a sausage patty that I will cut up and throw in there. I put a lot of mushrooms in there because I really love the taste of all of those ingredients together. And then once that's done, I will sprinkle cheese over it. I'll melt it. I make sure and put a lot of cheese on it because I love a lot of cheese, and that's very keto friendly. And then from there, I will sprinkle some salt on it. And then I actually get these little guacamole packets that are low in carbohydrates, but they are delicious. It's called Holy Guacamole. And I will eat that guacamole on top of my little egg scramble. And it is a really delicious meal. It's actually one of my favorite meals of the day. And as you can tell, it has very low sugar. I mean, it just has the mushrooms in it, the vegetables. So I will try to put a lot of mushrooms in there because I am trying to really ramp up my vegetables since I'm not eating a lot of the other sugars or carbohydrates. Now, one thing I didn't mention was first thing in the morning, I do always have a coffee/hot chocolate. And I talked about this in my last video as well. I've figured out how to make a delicious skinny coffee/hot chocolate. First thing in the morning, I'll have some coffee grounds in it, but later in the day, if I have more cups of it, it'll just be a skinny hot chocolate. And I'm going to do another video on that specifically and show you exactly my recipe for that because the past day or so, I figured out an even better way to make it, and it's just super yummy, and there's just a tiny, tiny little bit of sugar in there, but literally it's not even enough to maybe be a couple calories, and it's super delicious in my opinion. So I will have a couple of those drinks throughout the day. First one is usually with coffee, then after that I will try to stop the coffee and do more of just the hot chocolate. So now when we get to the afternoon after lunch, I will usually want a snack in between that and dinner because my husband doesn't usually get home until about 4:30 or 5, and I will get hungry between lunch and when he gets home when we're going to have dinner together. So one of the snacks that I've really been enjoying is I will eat some nuts. I like walnuts and cashews specifically. I've been kind of mixing those together. Sometimes I will throw in maybe a couple of those little semi-sweet chocolate chips in there, which doesn't add up to a lot of carbohydrates, but it's kind of like making your own little nut mix with a little bit of sweet and a little bit of salty in there. So I'm always keeping in mind that I want to keep the sugar and the starchy carbs low in every meal that I'm eating. So I will keep that usually around 5 to 10 grams of carbs. Again, like I said, I'm definitely going over probably the 50 grams of carbs a day for keto specifically, but it is much lower carb than what I used to eat. And that is actually what helped me lose the 10 pounds. So when we get to dinner, that's when I really have to be careful, because by that time, I don't have a really wonderful low carb choice for dinner. And I also want to be able to have some variety. And I also want to be able to eat what my family is eating for dinner. So I've had to become kind of creative. My mentality has been more like, try to keep the carbs as low as possible. So for instance, if we're having pizza, I will probably make myself like a chicken thigh and have that with a little Chick-fil-A sauce. And then maybe I'll kind of enjoy like the pepperoni and the cheese from the pizza. And if it's a stuffed crust pizza, I might allow myself to have just the little piece of stuffed crust. It does have a little bit of crust and a little bit of cheese. But again, I'm just kind of trying to minimize the carbs as much as possible during dinner, but I'm not completely eliminating them because I want to still be able to enjoy the food. But in pizza, what you notice is there's a lot more crust underneath the cheese and the pepperoni. So I don't really care for that anyway. So I just take it out and I just enjoy a couple of bites of the cheese and the pepperoni. And honestly, I feel just as satisfied as if I'd eaten that whole piece. So that's what I do for dinner. I just try to limit the carbs and try to think like, okay, if I'm having a hamburger, do I really need a bottom and a top bun? Not really. So I'll try to cut out those carbohydrates as much as I can. In the evening, I might have a couple of dark chocolate Hershey Kisses. They're each about 4 grams of carbohydrates each, which is really low sugar. And I find that they don't encourage me to binge on another treat that night. It's typically pretty satisfying and it's enough for me to feel like I got a little bit of a treat. And that's pretty much what I eat in a day. Every day is not perfect. I do the best that I can, and I am still trying to lose that next 10 pounds. So I've been trying to tweak my diet and I've been trying to discipline myself to be able to do whatever that next step is to lose the next 10 pounds. Hopefully this gave you some ideas on that. And if you want me to do another video on anything around this topic, let me know that down in the comments. I'd love to chat with you.